If French Hill is right there and fiscal policy is the problem, what do you want to hear from Donald Trump tomorrow night? Proposing, of course, to extend the 2017 Trump-era tax cuts, in part without explaining exactly how to pay for it, other than we'll grow out of it. And most credible economists have told us that's inflationary. Do you want more details on the pay-fors tomorrow?
Yeah, I do. One of the things that we learned after 2017, really in 2018, when the tax cuts went into effect, is the fact that it did grow the economy. We had so many businesses that reinvested what savings that they had. And if you look at curves, it did grow. Is it enough? Probably not. But also cutting the absolute out-of-control spending that we've seen in the last 3.5 years will hopefully be pay-fors in a way. But fiscal responsibility is critical. And so we're having to get back down to what Representative Hill said. This is where America's economy and where our debt really matters to the rest of the world.
Well, Congressman, as we consider the estimates of what making the tax cuts permanent and the collective tax policies that Donald Trump has proposed on the campaign trail, estimates range to the tune of about $10.5 trillion over the next 10 years. That is more than all non-defense discretionary spending is projected to cost. So if it is spending cuts, how drastic do those realistically need to be? And is there, frankly, appetite to do it?
Well, I think there will be. Obviously, tax cuts come through Ways and Means, spending cuts come through every different appropriations. I think we really need to get back to serious government. Just because it sounds like a good program, and I have to deal with this sometimes with my own constituents ask, is it a great program? Yes, but does the federal government necessarily need to be involved? No. There's some here in Washington, D.C., really on the progressive left, feel that the federal government needs to fund everything. We need to get away from that philosophy and understanding where we need to fund things. Our military obviously needs more funding and needs to be in a stronger stature faced with the Chinese threat that we have worldwide. But I think we have a fiscal day of reckoning coming sooner than later about where this country is and where our debt structure needs to be.
Of course, you're going to deal with the matter of spending before we get to any of this, with the government set to run out of funding on the 30th of September. Congressman, your speaker is putting forth a stopgap solution that appears to be upsetting folks on both sides of the aisle. Members of the Republican Freedom Caucus say they don't want any short-term solution. Democrats don't like this idea of the SAVE Act being attached. In fact, the White House today even said that it would veto this piece of legislation, suggesting that it is a solution in search of a problem. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in this country. Is this a waste of time to go through this exercise right now, or are previous analysts who are on right? This is just the way we do business here in Washington.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, John. You know, the SAVE Act is something that needs to be reaffirmed. I mean, we have places in this country that are absolutely making it easier for people illegally, whether they know it or not, to vote in this federal election. It's being pushed by the progressive left. There's no doubt about that. As far as CRs, I'm not crazy about them. But here we are faced with a situation that we were only able to get 5 of 12 appropriation bills across because of a lot of obstructionism by some members of our party. So, no, I'm not crazy about this. It's difficult for our military to fund things and plan things, but we're faced with a situation that we have to fund the government. Yeah, the SAVE Act, I think, is a great idea to go forward. And if people want to stand in the way, then they need to get out of the way of what we need to do for the government.
But do you think, sir, that 6 months, a 6-month continuing resolution is the appropriate time frame? Why not actually try to get those remaining 7 appropriation bills done in this Congress before a new one sits in January?
Well, you know, Kayleigh, it just goes to the fact we don't have time. We're pushed up on a time crunch. Yes, in an ideal world, love to have 12 out of 12 funded. But we're at a point where we're not going to be able to do this. We need to fund the government. I will never vote for a shutdown. It's absolutely irresponsible, in my opinion, to do. But that said, let us do a short term. Let us get into March, and let's figure out who the president is going to be. I have my own favorite. And then we can actually work backwards from where we are in March.
Congressman, it's Joe again here. I know that there's a lot of talk about China this week as part of the House Republican Conference's agenda, with a number of hearings that have been put forth here. I just want to ask you what your thoughts are at this point about TikTok, remembering there was a divest or ban law that came to fruition a couple of months ago. Yet we continue to see TikTok advertising, and even heard from the former president on this. Donald Trump on Truth Social, using TikTok, of course, on his campaign, just like Democrats have been doing. For all those, he says, who want to save TikTok in America, he writes, vote for Trump. The other side is closing it up. But now I'm a big star on TikTok. We even have TikTok Jack, and we're setting records. We're not doing anything with TikTok, he says, but the other side is going to close it up. Is he speaking for Republicans there?
I don't quite know. I think that's political talk in a way because, you know, hell, if the Democrats were jumping on TikTok and pushing it forward, it's only fair for Republicans to do that. That said, you know, the TikTok, the operators, the whole agency system within this, Joe, is something that is controlled by the CCP. They're gathering information on all Americans who use this platform. And I think there will be a day of reckoning where that does need to either go away or be completely reformed. And yes, politics are politics and campaigns are campaigns. I do think this will have to have an eventual change in their activity and their platform itself for TikTok.
Well, finally, on politics and the campaigns, Congressman, in your home state of North Carolina, there is a sense, based on polling, that it has gotten a lot tighter between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. What is it going to take to keep North Carolina red as it has been since 2008?
I think what's going to be important, and it has gotten a lot closer since Biden left, or was pushed out, rather. I think it's going to be about policy. And we've had a lot of folks move into North Carolina since the last election. Most of them, I think, are conservative. But you have to get rid of the rhetoric, which is always part of campaigns. You know, Kamala is pushing out 2025, which was never part of the Republican platform whatsoever. And you have to get back to policy. What do you want? Do you want policy like it's been for the last 3.5 years, where domestically inflationary problems, where the world were a joke as far as our international reputation? Or do you want to get back to where things were good for Americans? And I think when you come down where it's point blank policy compared to policy, I think the Trump campaign wins. I think Republicans win because that's what I believe most people care about. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago, 5 years ago, or are you worse? And I think that resonates mostly with North Carolinians.